of the fastest growing obsessions in mountain biking today is taking air. And that's what this next segment is all about. Taking air isn't that difficult. What's more important is how and when. So let's start off with hucking. That's where you take off the edge of a ramp or a platform or something similar and land lower down on the trail. If you cannot ride off the edge of something with both wheels staying on the ground at the same time, then you may need to huck it. Well in control, of course, because that's what taking air is all about. So Joan, we want to talk about getting off of something without pedaling. This maneuver is called hucking. Where do we start?
Let's start by taking a look at the different types of hucks there are out there. The approach can vary. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. We'll look at those three different types of approach, and then we're also going to look at the two common types of landing, the flat landing
Ooh.
and the tranny, the nice descending landing. It all starts with the manual front wheel lift. So, quick revision from West Coast Style 1. We take our shoulders for the preload of the front wheel. To get the shoulders down, the elbows bent, and then push, put some pressure on the hands there. You'll see your fort compress. And to follow that with throwing the shoulders up and back, extending the arms. This shifts the weight back a bit. The feeling will be like the front wheel, the handlebars are just hanging off the ends of the fingertips there. This manual front wheel lift keeps the wheel up in the air for a little period of time, just long enough for the rear wheel to come to the edge of the drop so that we don't nosedive.
Okay, so basically that manual front wheel lift is our takeoff off of a huck ramp, whatever that huck ramp is.
Definitely. And we can go onto flat ground and practice it just without the huck to make sure we've got it really consistent. Get your preload, get your manual front wheel lift. Try that so that the wheel's straight in the air, finger on the brake lever. That way, if the wheel comes up too much and your weight goes too far back, just
grab that rear brake, bring that front end down.
Definitely,
yeah.
Exactly.
Safety valve.
And then put them together so you're following one after another. Get to the point where you can recover, bringing your shoulders back over the front wheel as it comes to the ground, push off and perform another, and link it together when you can so that you're doing one right after another. This develops your anticipation, it improves your reaction time, because sometimes out there we need to pull off this move pretty quickly.
Yeah, key is definitely getting that timing down and lifting that front wheel just appropriate to the speed you're using to get off of it.
Exactly. And while you're playing there on the ground with this, you can lift the front wheel through puddles, then you don't get wet. You can use a manual front wheel lift to go over little water bars, and then when you've got that down, you're ready to start looking at timing, and then we can go to drops and start taking some air. So just a line on the ground is great to get your timing. You just want the front wheel up in the air until the rear wheel reaches the line or the edge of the drop. And then go to a low object. You'll see we've set up platforms here, and just 4 inches high, flat to flat. Again, get the timing, get the recovery, so you're landing both wheels at the same time, nice neutral position. Bring that flat to flat approach and landing up a bit to maybe a foot in the air, and then we need something else before we go any higher.
Which is more suspension?
Always a good thing. Always a good thing, that suspension. I was actually thinking there about the rear wheel, so as you know, we don't want that rear wheel to fall away from us. After you've lifted the front wheel, puts us in a nice position here for preloading the rear wheel a little bit, because our weight has gone back a bit. Your knees bend, that preloads the feet a bit. You'll feel that pressure. Now, just before the rear wheel goes off that drop, bring the hips up, drop the toes down, push back and up a little bit. We call that clawing, and that's going to give you control over the rear wheel in the air. Now we're ready to go a little bigger with this flat to flat.
But once again, key thing here is progression. Get the little stuff dial before moving on to the big stuff, because once you get higher and higher with the level to level, the level landing, you're going to have more of an impact. You're going to have to hold on harder. Yeah. It's going to be more of a compression.
Yeah, we have a great shot of Joan doing this. I'm glad I didn't have to do it. And you can really see Joan going off this drop and the absorption that you had to use to absorb that landing. It's really quite harsh.
Well, 7 inches in the front and 6 inches in the rear.
That's
really
helpful.
really helpful here. But you're right, it isn't very nice. So let's get away from the flat to flat. I mean, it's a good way for beginners to start hucking because it feels good to the eyes and to the head. Other situations are easier, and the up takeoff is a lot easier once you get accustomed to looking into space and feeling like you're just going into Never Never Land. The up approach, it actually really helps with the preload of both the front and the rear wheel, as you know, because there's a little resistance as we ride into that approach, ramp or ladder bridge or whatever it may be. So you get comfortable with that. That's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's like drifting is, I guess, how I would describe the feeling. Drifting up.
Yes. It is really sweet, that feeling. It can be a little bit tricky though when the up ramp is or the takeoff is extremely short. Then it becomes necessary to respond with your body language quite quickly. The front wheel will get preloaded fast, and right after the rear wheel is going to hit that up, that short up. And if you don't absorb quickly with the rear wheel to take control over it, it can get kicked a little bit. So you want to start slowly on those ones and build your speed up until your body can respond quickly enough to handle it.
So Damo, lots of different situations of manual front wheel lifts, but let's start with the first one, level takeoff to a downhill transition.